Hello and good morning. It's Nancy Matthews here, and you can see I am bundling up for a trip to the Northeast. And I have with me today the brilliant Linda Fostek, known as the Crisis Planner, and she's here today to offer some tips on preparing for the storm. Good morning, Linda.
Good morning, Nancy. How are you?
I'm getting ready. I'm bundling up.
I know. Well, you're coming to New York next weekend, so you got to be prepared, right?
That's right. That's right.
And, winter storm preparation is a lot more than milk, bread, and eggs. We've all seen how, as soon as the weatherman says, winter storm, and he says it so happily, oh, we got a winter storm coming.
Right. It's exciting in the news cycle, right?
Oh, I know. And then everybody runs to the store, and there's no milk, bread, or eggs on the shelves anymore.
Yeah.
It happens.
Well, and I was going to say that's, survival is what we're most concerned about, making sure that we've got heat and food, in case all those utilities go out. And I'm in Florida right now, everybody, so I had to, get a little more comfortable. But anyway, let's talk about some tips. People know what to do in terms of getting their food and their supplies, to prepare them in that way. What are some other tips to make sure people do so that it makes it easier for them, during the storm and also after?
Well, today I am going to be sharing some quick tips. And, it's always a good idea to bring in food supplies in anticipation of bad weather. And the first thing on my list is really have a supply of non-perishable foods for 3 to 5 days. Because you could be trapped in your home that long if the storm is severe enough. But one of the things I also recommend is to make sure you have a full charge on your cell phone, your backup batteries for your cell phone, and your computer, because this could be your communication lifeline if the phone lines are down or if you don't have a landline. There's always a risk of power failure. And, along with that, there's a number of risks that you have to worry about. Ice-covered lines can come down. Those lines can be live. Always stay clear of them. Don't stand in water that the lines are in. Just some pretty common sense there. When the power is out, small children and elderly are really at risk of hypothermia. So you have to really make sure to keep them warm if the power is out and they have no heat. And you want to make sure that if you are using a freestanding generator, that you're not using it indoors, because there's a huge risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. And one of the things I became keenly aware of when my husband was on kidney dialysis, there are people with medical conditions that require electrical, and they should have backup power supply in place or an alternate way of getting their medical treatment. When our heating systems fail, sometimes that happens even when the power's on. Make sure that it's in good working order, you have enough fuel, and you have an on-call service person that can come 24 hours a day if the heating goes out. There always is a danger of frozen pipes if you are without heat for any length of time. And in fact, one of the things that happened to a neighbor, that she was in Florida and we had a power failure here that lasted for 6 hours. The temperature dropped to 10 degrees. Nobody knew she was away. And 3 weeks later, a neighbor noticed a waterfall coming out of her bay window in her living room.
Wow.
3 entire levels of her house were completely filled with water.
So let's pause here, because one of the things around that is if you're going to be away, you want to turn off the water flow to your pipes and let a neighbor know, let somebody know, ask them to keep an eye on your house just in case.
Right. And it's always a good idea to have somebody that you trust with a key that could let in a repair person for your heating system or to check on things to make sure that everything is okay. That's a major thing. And many people have a certain place that the pipes are vulnerable to freezing. If they have the pipes on the outside of the wall, sometimes the sink will get frozen or the dishwasher will get frozen. And it's best if that happens, keep the cabinet doors open, let the faucet drip just enough that it keeps the water moving, because moving water is harder to freeze. So if you are in
a Florida girl wouldn't have known that.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do, even if the power is out, to prevent a major problem. And then always when things come back on, you have to be aware that you could end up with the pipes will start to leak, because once they're frozen, they stop leaking, but because that's when they burst. But as soon as they start to thaw, that's when the water can leak, and that's when you really have to pay attention. And there's a lot of, one of the cool things that, this wireless technology has done is there's home monitoring systems now that can tell you remotely if the power is off, if the temperature drops below a certain level, so that you know you have a problem, which is really cool.
And you got more tips there. I love it. And I
do.
All right, keep running with your tips.
Okay, well, we're down to number 7 already, believe it or not. And that's, digging out from the storm requires a plan. My plan is I've hired 2 neighborhood kids that are really reliable to take care of my driveway walks and car. But many of us take care of our own snow. And if you have a snowblower, make sure it's serviced and working before the storm. You don't want to realize that you have a problem when the storm.
You're trying to
that you have enough fuel and make sure that it's accessible. You don't want it to be in the back of the garage completely buried by stuff that you can't get to it when you need it. Have it, be prepared to use it, and follow all the safety features. You don't want to end up with a trip to the emergency room. These are powerful machines that can injure you. If you're shoveling yourself, make sure your shovel and your snow melt are accessible. Again, you want it right next to your front door that you can get to it immediately. And be aware, there's a lot of physical hazards. We know about heart attacks, of course, but you can slip and fall. You can get stuck in the snow, frostbite, hypothermia, dehydration if you're out there for too long, and, a muscle strain. I mean, you're not used to lifting heavy things of snow. You can really hurt yourself. And one of the things that I was brought to my attention was be very cautious when you're working near the street or in the street. I had a friend who was hit by a snowplow, and he wasn't found for hours after.
Oh, wow.
I mean, because it's in the dark, nobody, somebody thought his wife thought he was shoveling snow, and he's laying in a snowbank after having been hit by a snowplow. So be very cautious, because, these people who are operating plows are focused on plowing. They're not focused on what's around them. As we know, they run into cars too. So things happen. And also with your pets, they can be very confused and frightened by the high winds, and just their environment is totally different. I had somebody who the snow drifted up on their fence in their backyard because they had a fenced yard, and the dog escaped from the yard because they were the fence in the snow. So be aware of that. Use the pet safe snow melt, because that doesn't injure their feet or isn't toxic. Be careful when you walk your pets in the city, because they're on the metal grates in the sidewalk can become electrified, because the melting snow and salt can get into the electrical system. And there have been incidents where pets have been electrocuted because of that. So just be aware of where you're walking and protect your pet. If you have feral cats that you're taking care of outside that can't be brought inside, because our pets should be brought inside, but obviously sometimes they can't, make sure that they have shelter with clean, dry bedding that can keep them warm, and change their food and water daily. I know a number of people have big hearts and they take care of these feral animals. So your pets are something that's really important. And of course, driving, be safe, drive slow, pay attention. You're not going to be able to stop. You might be able to go, but you're not going to be able to stop. And my philosophy always is if they declare a state of an emergency, that's good enough information for me to stay off the road.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right. Don't be a hero. Don't think, I can do this. No.
I can do this. I mean, the state of emergency means it's emergency vehicles only. I don't want to be in one of those emergency vehicles. Although sometimes things happen. I mean, the last snowstorm we had started mid-afternoon. By rush hour, it was a complete whiteout. People got stuck on the road for hours. And, that's when you really want to have an emergency kit in your car that you put in your car at the beginning of the season. You leave it there all the time. And that really should include all the things that you need: your shovel, your snow scrapers and brushes, a set of gloves, hat, scarf, socks, boots, and a warm coat, because sometimes you're not wearing those things when you leave in the morning. But if you get stuck in the snow, you're going to be very grateful you have them. Have some water and some snacks and a blanket in the car, because you could be stranded for hours on the road and maybe you can't keep the engine running and it's going to get bitter, bitter cold. So you want to be protected. And the typical emergency things, your jumper cables, your emergency flares, and a flag to hang out of your window if that's like a bright color that's going to show up against the snow, that people will know that there's somebody in that vehicle that needs assistance. And finally, the thing that, I think most of us will miss is check on your elderly neighbors and those that are living alone. Be the one for them. Reach out and help them. Let them know you're there in an emergency. If they need any assistance getting in and out of the house, they may be sick. They could need medical assistance. They may get injured. They certainly could be frightened, confused, hungry, or cold. It can easily become a statistic if they're trapped inside their house for a number of days. So be aware, be a good neighbor, be the one, and typically that is what it's all about. A situation like a major snowstorm brings neighborhoods together. It brings us all outside. We all are talking to each other and complaining about the fact that we have to get rid of the snow. But, suddenly everybody is out and about. And if you notice that one of your neighbors is not outside, or that the snow isn't being removed, it might be a good time to check on somebody. All in all, being prepared is about using common sense. Nothing is worth losing your life for. Have patience and keep your sense of humor, because, it's easy to get irate in situations that are not going the way you want. But if you're patient and keep your sense of humor, I think you can get through anything. And the best part about the things that I shared is you can do this, get everything together once, and be ready for the entire winter storm season. You can get off the merry-go-round, and I know you've got this.
Beautiful, beautiful. Linda Fostek, known as the Crisis Planner. She is filled with knowledge and information so that you get ready now, my friends. This is the time you get ready. The storm hasn't hit yet, right?
No. Well, we had a little dusting this morning. That's okay. Like a little warning that it's coming. But tomorrow it's supposed to be big. Whether we get it or not, with Long Island.
Today is the day here, so I'm going to put my hood back on.
Yeah, we're ready. Ready. Thanks for listening. You can reach me at thecrisisplanner.com or Linda Fostek, crisisplanner.com.
Thank you so much, Linda. Appreciate you. Bye. Bye, everybody. Get out there. Get prepared. Make sure that you've got everything you need. Have a great day and stay safe. Bye.